I've got Charles Chip Royston, and we're talking about purpose. Talk about what it means, what it's for, and would you mind hanging through those quotes again real quick so we can just have a baseline for people?
Yeah, let's give Woofin a little bit of recap.
Okay. By defining purpose, the strict definition, the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. And then we went into some quotes. The purpose of life is to find your mission and fulfill it, Mother Teresa. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. From Monsieur Picasso. There is no greater gift you can give or receive than to honor your calling. It's why you were born and how you become most truly alive. Oprah Winfrey, of all people. This next one. If you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. For your passion will lead you right into your purpose. From a bishop. The purpose of life is a life of purpose. From Robert Byrne, who was an author and chess player. And one of my favorite all-time, Mark Twain, said it so well. The two most important days in life are the day you were born and the day you discovered the reason why. So that's the quick recap of there's all these ideas and expressions of purpose. And me and Chip are trying to expand it, maybe hone it down. Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm down for coming up with the unified field theory for purpose. What do you say? You down for that?
No, I'm not. No. And I'll tell you why. I think we need at least two definitions. I don't want
I mean, that's why I went through all of those quotes, because different things have different meanings and different things resonate differently with different people.
Because I really think that purpose can be defined functionally as some have, and the dictionary certainly does, and that's useful. You know, like let's say you're getting together in a group, and I do a lot of intentional work around maximizing the effectiveness of group and minimizing the dysfunction of groups. So I think one of the biggest hacks of a group is to find out, what is this group getting together for? What's the purpose of this group? And that doesn't have to be emotional, spiritual, lifelong. It doesn't have to be even inspiring or meaningful. It's literally, what is the purpose of this group? And then if we can keep focused on the purpose of this group and fulfill that, then it really doesn't matter if we like each other. It doesn't matter if we all have the same aptitudes or skills. We can just get that done. So a purely functional definition of purpose is useful. And yet the one that I said yes to your invite to is the more spiritual one, the more, like Oprah called it, a calling. But for me, the sense of a purpose is like, well, what is giving energy to, and what is giving life to that which I'm doing? And it's not the content of what I'm doing, because I'm grading papers and I'm lecturing and I'm driving back and forth and paying too much for parking and I'm, whatever. It's like all that content of my life is whatever. It can be very boring to focus only on the content. So for me, a conversation about purpose is focusing on the context. What's the container that holds all of the little details together? What's the unifying principle of why I'm doing what I'm doing? And like you said earlier, that wasn't broadcast, the how we do what we do. Even when we do things that are menial tasks like doing the dishes, in order to get me to even do the dishes, I have to think in terms of, well, this is making my wife happy. I don't care. I will let the dishes pile up and it has no impact on my joy. But if I can trick myself into thinking that this actually has purpose, right? So to me, purpose is a motivating force as much as it is an inspiring force. So I love this conversation.
Yeah. I like what you were saying about, when you get a group together, what's the purpose of the group? It's like a grounding, right? Like from here, this is the grounding. This is the intention of what we're going to do next. So
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because you gave a presentation, I don't know, it must be 10 years ago now, of a thing called Intentional for Life. And you had your 4 quadrants. And I don't know if you planned on covering some of that in this, but why not? Intentionality is a big part of that quote. The purpose of life is a life of purpose, which is basically intentional for life.
Yeah, I still, I'm bringing back the fundamentals, which I call it now. It used to be intentional for life. Now they're the same thing basically. So to me, it's the fundamentals, because my philosophy of following your fun, it's the same thing. Following your passion, the same kind of thing. What resonates most for me is the fun aspect, the happiness, the laughter, just the exuberance, right? Like, even if it doesn't change the world, it's still worth pursuing from my point of view.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 4 things are purpose, intention, play. Used to be self-expression, now it's play, and integrity. So to me, those are like 4 fundamental things to keep in mind as you go through life. And I think it helps you discover some of those passions. But again, right, you got to start with the purpose. 4 things, they're equally important, and if you take one out, it's not going to be as successful, right? So, but purpose is where you start. So it's got kind of a special place in the 4 quadrants of being.
I love it. The purpose of this, like, why are we here? And if I could recap that, you were saying, if we were talking about the kind of the condition, the human condition, and how a lot of people are just kind of in this place where they're forced to work jobs that may be joyless, or maybe just, getting them the cash that they need to live, but they may not be fulfilling. And then maybe what our purpose tonight is to give people a little bit of a window or a glimpse or a motivation or an inspiration into maybe a different way of looking at it, so that they can then have the path reopened, or maybe a revisit of the way they're thinking about approaching work. Maybe they can approach work with a little bit more fun, instead of just, oh, here we go, time to make the donuts.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I like that. And yeah, it's not even so much about, okay, now I'm going to go to work at this job that I hate, and I'm just going to be joyful and express my real passion and start. It's not so much about that. I just think that the idea of people just being aware on a regular basis of their purpose, and not just going, well, yeah, okay, I know my purpose, so I got that settled. Now I'm just going to go about life, and my purpose will, right. I don't think it works that way. Maybe for some people it's such a burning purpose or passion that you can't help but think about it all the time, so you don't need a reminder. But I think a lot of people, in the swirl of things and what they make it mean, and all of that, it either gets uncomfortable to stay aware of, or it's just something that pops up again every January 1st.
Well, you brought up discomfort, and that's really my field. I mean, I'm no longer really an anthropologist, even though that's my training. I've received more training since then in counseling and therapy, and boy, that's it, the discomfort factor. And most people don't want to face that. And a lot of people in our profession are healers. In other words, the purpose is to heal. And the interesting, risk of our profession is that you get into the business of healing and you only focus on healing others. And you could spend your whole career focusing on healing others and miss the sense of purpose for yourself. And I think that's a straight route to burnout. If you focus on your purpose only externally and not also internally, I think that's huge. And so
Yeah.
for people who may not be at their destination place or at the location of their best service, then the goal could be, how do I focus on the skill set that I'm training to develop so that I can be the best I can be when I get there, you know? So let's say you're working a job that you don't love. One approach could be, okay, well, what skill set? Well, maybe I'm going to work on patience. And boy, there's plenty of opportunities to work on patience in the workforce, right? And so maybe there's a sense that I'm going to work on being impactful, right? So maybe on a Tuesday, I'm going to wake up, you know, tomorrow, and my whole game tomorrow is being impactful. I'm going to make a difference wherever I am, and not focusing too much on the details, but just play the game of making an impact. Or what if it's, I don't know, whatever, you know, and then you just keep that attitude towards your approach, then it's less likely that you're going to start future tripping and comparing with where you are now against where you want to be and get disappointed, get discouraged like that.
Right. Yeah. I like this from Wolfen. There's a lot of external purpose given by others as opposed to internal purpose. Yeah, that's like, yeah, from the outside, making a judgment about, hey, you said you were all about blah blah blah, and you're maybe not doing it. You know, so there is like pressure.
Yeah.
I think sometimes from once you start a path and you kind of declare yourself as, I'm this, that, or the other, you know, I'm going to be a great dancer, I'm going to be a great whatever, right? Then there is can be external pressure, you know, because you've told everybody that this is what you want to do. So people are going to ask, well, hey, how's the dancing thing going? You know, and if you haven't, like you were saying, reached a certain level, you know, according to your own, you know, goals and whatnot, then you're going to feel like you're not fulfilling your purpose, or not fulfilling it to the degree, you know, that you ought to be. That's the good and bad. Everything always has, you know, very positive and very negative aspects to it, and that whole area of society's expectations on us, I think that has cracked open some things for people to realize that, you know, I don't want that kind of life.
Yeah.
Which is a good realization to have. But you know, you can swing you can swing too far, which we often do in society, right? Like something's like this, it's like, we got to fix it, and then we just go too far. So bring it back down a little bit, you know. Can't we just find some balance, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me think of is, you know, the part where what you're doing, you know, in your career, in your life, you know, whatever, is irrelevant pretty much to your purpose in life. Like, you know, I really resonate with this whole thing about your calling in life, right? Like, I'm called, you know, to thine own self be true, you know, that whole, you know, very noble sounding, you know, thing. But I think if you're, you know, living your purpose, and you just have that, you know, passion for life in general, then, you know, it doesn't really matter what you do. doesn't really matter if you impact the amount of people that you wanted to, or became the expert in this field or the other that you wanted to, or, you know, anything else. Like, you didn't attain a certain goal. It seems to me that is not a good barometer of whether somebody's fulfilling their purpose.
Many people fulfill purpose after death. And I think that there's something to what you're saying, that it doesn't matter if in your lifetime you don't ever get to see the results of your impact. You may be having that impact and you may not live long enough to see it. But the measure, I think, is best when it's a measurement of, like you were saying, integrity, a sense of, I said I was going to do this because this brings me joy. and I'm going to do this because it brings me joy. That's a very existential kind of mindset around this idea of purpose, is that the purpose is literally just to exist. And then anything else that you decide to do with that is up to you, and it's additive. There's this wonderful quote about, it's not about finding your purpose. It's about creating your purpose. Life isn't about finding it like it's out there somewhere in a grocery store aisle. No, it's inside of you. And the better you can understand what that is and then bring it out, which is why I still like your concept of self-expression. Because for me, self-expression is a very powerful way to talk about what's going on in the self, what's going on in you, and what is that unique set of intersections that's uniquely you. You care about things in a way that nobody else cares about the way you do, and where you do. So then that's your job, that's your purpose, is to care about those things. Express what that looks like in every way you can, creatively.
Yeah. And the reason why in the four fundamentals I changed self-expression to play, it was mostly for the reason of self-expression. I think, like a lot of these things, 10 years from now, our talk about purpose is going to, it's going to have baggage attached to it in some shape or form, because people will interpret it in a zillion different ways. So play to me was kind of more down to it just defined the state of self-expression for me better, because it got you to thinking about, well, what does that mean? Play. It's like how can play be one of the four fundamental aspects of living a happy, healthy life? So
I think a lot of adults have forgotten how to play, and I think it's really important to focus on that.
Oh, well, I think this is a good time to bring up this next thing. I was just thinking about this. A perfectly wonderful irony is what I'm calling this. The things we do for no reason are among the most connected we are to our reason for being. Like the stuff you would do anyway, like it's not necessarily impacting anybody. It's not part of your plan. And I see like the way a child plays is, very, very much into this. And obviously when you get older, and you learn more, and you have more of a desire to have an impact out in the world and not be so self-centered like we must be as children. That gets kind of, again, it's the balance thing, right? So, I got to make a big impact on the world. I want to, I got to leave my mark on the world, so, and then it just swings too far, and we forget the play part a lot of times.
Here we go, making things more difficult, not answering any questions, just asking just asking more questions.
We're just asking questions. Well, I'm going to go through the rest of this just because I wanted to get your idea on this, and so everybody talks about there's I think it's been said before that our purpose in life is to be happy, right? Like,
I've heard that.
I think that's valid.
I disagree, but okay. We'll
get back to it. Well, I mean, it's kind of surface, I suppose, but there's something there. There's something about that, because happiness is a pretty loaded word. But I was thinking about this idea of celebrating life. And celebrate is strictly defined from the dictionary: acknowledge a significant or happy day, such as being born, or event with a social gathering or enjoyable activity. I mean, I love that because so is it possible that life's purpose could be described as celebrating your life? And again, what you do to celebrate life is irrelevant. just the fact of celebrating being alive. I mean, I don't know if that, like, hits a nerve with anybody, but I was trying to think of a way to, you know, say something that was very, very simple. Because you know me, I like things simple and easy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this could help some people to kind of, I would say, like lighten up and not get so serious about one's purpose in life.
Can I chew on it and spit it out a bit?
Sure. Yeah. Let me just finish this thought. At
Okay.
the same time, I would also say finding your purpose in life and fulfilling it is like the noblest duty a human being could have. Right. So I'm in between those two things. Like, don't worry about it. Don't be so serious about it. And on the other hand, yeah, dude, you better get on it. Or, right. Yeah. It's very, very super important. And, it's however you want to go with it.
So I still think that you can have a lot of purposeful activity, even in a bad day or a depressed day or a day where you have no energy. So I just would like to have if we're going to have a definition to be helpful, we should have at least another definition to talk about. Well, what about when you don't feel like celebrating anything? What do you do? What do you do with that? What do you do with the darkness?
Oh, okay, yeah. That's great because yeah, for me, again, it's about keeping like a bigger picture in mind. So maybe it could be said, celebrate life as much as you can manage. I mean, if we wanted to get a little more, all inclusive with it, yeah. Because celebrating life is not about like, yes, every day's a holiday and I'm just a part. I'm happy 24/7, and yeah, because I totally agree. Anytime you kind of put a certain definition or label on something, you fall into the same trap. What if you're not celebrating life? Then obviously you must not be fulfilling your purpose.
Yeah.
So this idea about keeping a wider lens on what purpose could mean for you. And I don't know if that helps some people connect more with their purpose or not. I'm just throwing it against the wall.
Yeah. How to find your purpose, the question itself is flawed because it says you're not already there. You're not already doing it. Because like on one hand, just the purpose is like, I think Werner Herzog, I think, says the purpose is just to live. Get over it. Quit making it more complicated than it is. If you're alive, if you're reading this meme right now, then you're doing it. You're alive. And that's the purpose. Quit making it too much. And then there's other people who are like, you've got to find your best possible expression of life. And so the game is to find out what works for each person, because some people have a lot of ambition. And then that means, like you were saying, some people are just born with a lot of pressure and a lot of clarity, and they're thrust into, or they push their way into the sense of purpose. And other people kind of don't have that much ambition. And therefore it's harder when you lack ambition. It's harder to find a sense of calling, because the calling is more like, hey, psst, get over here, than it is like rattling your chains, right? So
right.
I think it has to be customizable, this definition.
Yeah, but again, the idea that just made me think of I so admire athletes and sports, and I love all the sports analogies for living life. They just really resonate for me a lot, because it has to do with how you play the game and showing up on the field and all that stuff, right? But I think this happens for a lot of elite. It's not just athletes. It could be an elite musician or an elite author or an elite anybody, right? You reach this pinnacle, and it's kind of like, now what?
Yeah.
right? So if you view that with yourself as like, this is my purpose in life, right, is to be this bingo, right? To me, it can backfire at a certain point. I like to say, it hits a point of diminishing returns. So again, that's why I like trying to take a bigger look at it, because that person's purpose in life is never to be an elite fill in the blank. That's
Yeah.
never the purpose. Never, right? Never. That's just what you do to fulfill being alive, as you
Mm-hmm.
as you said.
Mm.
So yeah, because I think that happens a lot. I mean, that kind of happened with me. Personally, I felt that. There was a time when I just thought it was my purpose in life was to do these outstanding comics, right? And through that, I was gonna, and I had, projects for decades.
Yeah.
And when um, that didn't work, or I I couldn't figure out how to make a living at it because I didn't know what the hell I was doing on that end of things. That kind of collapsed. And then I went into commercial art, eventually did cartooning and illustration and graphic design and all that. Got into commercial art. um, I felt fulfilled, but at the same time there was always this nagging,
Mm.
right, nagging voice in my head going, yeah, that's great, Baron, but you're not really fulfilling your purpose. So for some time I kind of felt like I had a dual purpose. And now, it's been a while now, but I've realized that neither one of those, my purpose was never to be a good storyteller. My purpose in life was never to, try to help people, have more fun in life. That was just this is just what I like to do to celebrate life. So that's how it kind of,
Yeah.
dovetails with a possible way to look at one's purpose.
In human services, I was teaching the cultural diversity class for human services,
Oh, okay.
and I came across a challenge to my place in the department, and I thought I was going to be fired.
Ooh.
And in 3 years teaching, I started off not really knowing what I was doing, but I grew so quickly to the task that it felt like I was in my calling, not just heeding my calling. I felt like I'd answered it and this was it. And I was blossoming. And it was so threatening to me to feel like they're going to take it away from me, you know?
Mm.
And I think a good test of whether you're aligned with your purpose or not is if it's tied to an external job or an external thing. I think you hinted at this earlier. And I went through a dark night of the soul about it. And I came out the other end of it realizing that my purpose there was to motivate and inspire a lifelong learning. And I realized I could do that anywhere. I could do that anywhere. I could do that with any job I ever had ever. I could do it as a parent. I could do it as a partner. I could do it as a friend. And it just freed me up to think, okay, wait a second. If I can keep my sense of focus on the bigger, like you said, the bigger picture of the purpose and not have it tied to a manifestation of that purpose or an outlet for that purpose, then I'm free to take that purpose with me wherever I go. And that was really huge. That was a huge gift and it gave me a lot of freedom to not be so attached to and not be so significant around, oh my God, I have to have this job, you know? And I didn't lose my job. I didn't just say, screw you, I don't need you. I said, I really like this place where I can outlet my purpose. What can I do to shift and change and adapt so that I am more of what this department needs? And it's been a love story ever since. So it's been pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I often got caught up in the outcome instead of the journey. That's a conundrum that I feel like a lot of people have, because they just can't quite reconcile the the circumstances
Yeah.
of their life with what they're really passionate about. And what you were saying, yeah, I see it the same way. I have all the intention and passion in the world to do, short films, mostly science fiction short films, and eventually a feature. I've got the story, I've got the screenplay, kind of started. That's my full intention. I'm passionate. I'm going for it, right? But if I never reach that, I can still tell stories. I can still,
Produce
do
awe.
all of these things. And yeah, it would be a shame for anybody to hinge the fulfillment of their purpose on specific outcomes, like you were saying.
I think the greatest gift is figuring out what it is for you. And honestly, this is a paradox in itself. Stop listening to us. we don't have the answers. We're still figuring it out. And whatever it is that I figure out, it's going to be for me. And I do try my best in my teaching to create practices that people can help discover their own. But still, I might be teaching them how to do what I did. And really, the best gift is to figure out what unique method works for you. I mean, that's the best advice I can give if we're trying to wrap up with some advice.
I think what would be useful is, again, paying more attention to your bliss, your joy, what you find fun, what lights you up.
I like to think what characters you root for in books and movies should also give a clue into what it is that you want to see succeed. That might be a clue, a mirror back to you.
Yeah, and to not, I mean, naturally, people want to discover their purpose and want to be able to define it for themselves, so they feel like as they step into the next days and weeks and years of their life, they're making sure that their purpose is fulfilled. And that can all get really heavy, really fast. So it seems like there's certain things to pay attention to that may not be directly related, to your purpose the way most people think about it. Like if you just took purpose off the table, right? Like nobody needs to discover their purpose in life, because you're going to find it. Right? You're going to find it. You're going to be doing certain things because you want to, you like to, you enjoy it, you get satisfaction from it, it's fulfilling, it has an impact on the people around you, right? You're going to do that anyway, whether you're aware of your purpose or not. It seems to me.
I don't know. That's the case in a lot of the people that I know, but I see what you're saying is that we might be making it harder on ourselves by thinking too hard. And maybe if we just kind of release, let go a little bit and just do what we do, kind of like can you go back to that one quote about the irony, the delicious, wonderful irony?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was pretty cool. Wait. Yeah, that one. Things we do for no reason. I like that a lot because, on the flip side of intentionality, you've got this causeless behavior. You're doing it for no reason. And then I would add trusting that there is a reason and it's your very being. Kind of like what you're saying. It's the most connected to our reason for being. I love that idea. So just if you catch yourself in a playful mood, indulge it, play for a while, see what happens. And then afterwards you can go back and say, wow, that was that was me living.
Yeah. What's to me, it's so perfect about it is that you literally, if you're doing it for no reason, you don't have thoughts about where's this going to get me, who's it going to impact, is it right there, that's not even a conversation that you even need to have.
You're just being.
You're just being. You're just doing the things that you enjoy. Now, right, to balance in all things, you can't live your life that way completely. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Well, you can let it
maybe monks sitting on a mountain and meditating 24/7. Maybe that works for.
You can let it inform your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to think of the way children play, that they're role playing. They're acting as if that they are an adult. They're acting as if they are in a relationship. They mock and model and role play and pretend. They do a lot of that stuff, and I think that that's something that we as adults, we forget that we have the capacity to. We forget how to speak that language of play. And I think there's so much benefit to remembering how to play like that. Watch yourself, emulating celebrities, if you will. I think a lot of us look at celebrities and we think they have some sort of something that we admire. Well, that thing that we admire over there in them is a clue to what it is that we want for ourselves.
And I love the idea of, playing like a kid.
Yeah.
And there, to me, there's like some really, deep wisdom in this idea of, you've heard that phrase, fake it till you make it. I think that's one of the most brilliant things ever said. I used to fake it till you make it. It's like, well, okay, so you're pretending. It's like, well, yeah. If you're going to act as if, right? Like if I'm going to be a feature filmmaker, which I've never been, I'm going to have to act as if I am. So I'm going to have to pretend that I'm a filmmaker.
I like the term acting as if from Alfred Adler way better than the fake it till you make it, because
pretend to me, pretending has got a little bit of a more childlike quality. Now people say like you're pretending to be somebody you're not. And to me, it's like, well, yeah, exactly.
So that
I'm pretending to be somebody I'm not with an intention to be that person eventually.
Yeah.
Did you have an early inspiration? I mean, I had an early inspiration with science fiction and fantastic stories and whatnot, from early movies, and then I got into comics, the Eries and Creepies and all that, and it was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be that. It just it blew my socks off. It was artistic. It was the storytelling. It was it just lit up every atom in my body. And I was so inspired that I taught myself how to draw. Not to be an artist, but so I could do an illustrated story.
Yeah.
So
I mean, keep alive that awe.
Did you have that kind of a very, very early inspiration, or did that kind of come a little bit later for you? You said you were a late bloomer.
Yeah, I mean, I think because there was a few things. First, a very negative inspiration, and that was my dad divorcing and leaving the family.
So that pushed you in a particular direction.
It made me realize how much I want things to be whole and intact and together, and I want families to stay together. Like that is a huge thing, and so that I think in the negative started me on this path of wanting things to be, wanting families to be intact, wanting people to be together.
Better.
You're a good storyteller.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope and the dream.
Yeah.
Tell some stories and blow people's minds. Like if live to be 200 years and I make a movie as mind-blowing as Inception or The Matrix.
Darren, if you live to 200 years, that's going to blow some minds.
Oh, well, maybe that should be my purpose.
Maybe that's what I was just going to say. Maybe your purpose is to live to an age, a creepy old age, that creates creepy awe for all who behold.
That's right, man. I'm already starting to turn into a gnome, right? I'll get more gnome-like at a certain point, right? Which is going to open certain doors that are not currently open. Hope this is useful and maybe gives your own purpose a little kick in the pants. That would be awesome if we get even a couple of people a little more sparked about stuff. Then I would consider this a raging success. All right, thanks again, man.
You got it.
We're gonna end this one, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.